Well, good morning again, and I'm back a little less frustrated than I was. And we've got, as you can see, in half an hour, we've got Liza Page, who will be coming along to give us the latest update on the alternative view. And Stuart Dolby was in this morning and has picked up on the Drax scandal. So the backroom people are all busy and will bring their findings to you eventually. I, in the meantime, will actually be a little bit flight of fancy, but just to keep a slightly serious view on thing, I thought that the headlines this morning were interesting because they really are more pertinent than normal. First of all, it's Donald Trump is being taken to court for interfering with the last American election. And he's saying, don't put me in court before the next election because I want to win that. So election issues for next year are very much in the forefront in the United States and just as controversial as ever. But they are here as well because Rishi Sunak has said he's going to hold on to the very last minute to an election. And most politicians don't like doing that because it boxes them in. But I guess that the Conservatives have been taking such a pasting that Sunak wants all the time that he can to prepare for a real battle at the next election. So the Trump conspiracy, says one newspaper, Trump team seeks to derail absurd push for speedy trial before the election, reads another newspaper. The Will Harry and Meghan's blow-up video silence the gossips, which goes a bit off-piste, but a green power firm taking us for fools. And that is the Drax situation, where we import wood pellets for burning on the basis that they are much more environmentally friendly. And they were offering a rebate to those people who bought their stuff. And now they're reneging on the rebate. So Stuart is busy looking at that. Because that's a scandal in the making. The Daily Telegraph, Minister faces police inquiry over a racist leaflet. That's in Wales. God help us from that sort of stuff. Mirador is NHS strikes are to blame for waiting lists, says Rishi. Ha, 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 say the opposition. And the Times, get on your delivery bike, a minister tells the over 50s. Well, we've been on our delivery bike for the last 30 years. I don't know where he's been. The Express, Rishi's blunt ultimatum to striking doctors, and he says, listen, the waiting lists and the expense of the NHS is all because of their strikes. Well, I doubt if it's all because of their strikes, but of course, the defenders of the NHS are all saying it's rubbish, it's nothing to do with it. But the Star keeps us all with our feet firmly on the ground because it says the proof is out there and it's back to little green men. And it says ET is lurking and give it 30 days is one of its finds. A professor says, give me 30 days and I'll prove it. So there you are. That's what is on the news headlines. Now, as we lead up to Liza, I think it's time to have a little bit of a laugh, I hope, because what we have here is we should have anyway. No, it's not there, and one would really expect it not to be, because it never is. Whenever I'm ready to do something, and so we have to go with the flow and the fact that everything is up the creek this morning.
So you're almost back home.
Yes, it is within a spitting distance. Yeah, it's difficult.
So that's sort of 73, 74.
That's Philip.
Were mum and dad still alive?
Yes, they were. Is because nothing is doing what it should be doing, and we have to get ourselves out of some sort of a mess every time that we turn around. But the stuff that is, I really don't have anything to show you that is very, very new. I thought I had. Ah, there we go. This is so that you can have a good, decent laugh. Because the one thing I am not is a dancer. No, never have been. Always felt uncomfortable with it. I don't have a body that goes with the flow. But here are two lovely girls, Jo and Lou, who tried very hard to teach me the American smooth. So see what you think, he said.
And your siblings?
No, you see, it's not doing what it's not doing what it's supposed to do. And this is what's really upsetting me, is that this technology has just been working for well over a year, and now suddenly it's not. And I have no idea why. And I am not a technology. We'll just try one more time. No, our browser is having trouble showing your video. This can happen if the file is invalid. Why should it be invalid? It's been there. We've used it so many times, and so I can't. So I'm going to have to go for something else, and I do apologize. Let's see if we've got anything that's is worthwhile. No, we haven't. It's well. Okay,
So
let's show.
You're almost back home.
Philip.
Yes.
Interviewing me
within a spitting distance.
No, we won't, because that's a bit sensitive. There I am again. I'm back, but I'm no closer to having a program up there than I was. And this is where it gets very, very upsetting. I'm going to go to my cocktails piece. You've seen it before. You're going to see it again. While waiting for Liza Page.
Okay. Well, wine. Wine. No beer. Gracious as well. Not even going to talk about wine. Thought I was, but I've decided instead, and sometimes the nose, the nose for a nice drink, steers you in a different direction, as indeed does a nose for a good story. I was going to spend just a minute or two talking about cocktails. Now I'm going to talk about them for several minutes. Because when I was researching cocktails to find out where they were nowadays, and I thought that they'd all but disappeared, even though one of my favourite tipples is a Bloody Mary, which properly made is indeed considered to be a cocktail. But as I researched and remembered some of the glory days, I also remembered a French journalist called Pierre Danineau, who in the 60s wrote a column for Le Figaro. And there's always been friendly banter between the French and the English about how they see us and we see them. They call us roast beef. I don't dare tell you what we sometimes call them. But the roast beef, Major Thompson, a character created by Pierre Danineau, was the typical English gentleman. He always was impeccably dressed in a suit, carried a brolly. Some places in the Western world it's known as a bumbershoot, and was carrying a briefcase in most instances, in which Danineau pointed to an invisible briefcase in which one could see a sandwich, which he said every English gentleman carried for his lunch, and also a penny. A penny in old coins, I don't know, about half a cent, I suppose, half a euro, half a what, but anyway, half a new pence was carried because that's the amount that it took to put into the slot of the public toilet. So every English gentleman was always prepared. And Danineau paints an incredible picture of the English gentleman. But in one of his books, and he wrote several about Major Thompson and about the English, is he writes about Major Thompson going to New York and finding himself, and I suppose this would be in the 1960s, finding himself invited to a cocktail party. And as a good English gentleman, sort of more or less pines, what on earth is a cocktail party? Well, I was in North America in the 1960s, and I enjoyed many, many cocktail parties. They were the center of social existence, and people prepared very carefully not only the food that they would offer to their guests, but also what sort of cocktails. One of the vestiges of the cocktail circuit was a chain of cocktail bars, I suppose they were, but they were restaurant cocktail bars called Trader Vic's, and they were built in the image of a Polynesian war room, where the warriors would gather ready to go out and bash heads over any silly Englishmen who dared to stand on their shores, and indeed they did do to various people, including Captain Cook. But these were stylized cocktail bars, and they had some exotic cocktails. They were a mixture of rum-based and fruit juice cocktails with wonderful names like a Wahine, a Molokai Mike, and the wonderful Scorpion. The Scorpion was a large bowl with a gardenia floating in the middle of this rum and fruit cocktail concoction. Each of the drinkers was given a straw, and you raced to see who could finish it. You didn't need too many of those throughout the evening to know that you'd been at Trader Vic's and you'd had a Scorpion. The other strange thing was that the bowl in which it came, there were 4 fertility figures, and it was almost impossible not to sort of pat them on the head. So I rather think that they helped the population explosion at the time. Nonetheless, that was the cocktail of the day. And cocktails were in such full flurry, such full flush. They were so acceptable in society that Esquire magazine and Playboy magazine put out books on how to make the perfect cocktail, but also 365 reasons to have a cocktail party. And the one I remember particularly was Jiffy the giraffe's birthday. And Jiffy the giraffe was an animal that had been secreted in one zoo or another throughout the world, but everybody was invited on a particular day to have a cocktail party to celebrate Jiffy the giraffe's birthday. Such was the grip of cocktails in those days. Not anymore. I woke up the other day and thought about cocktails, and I thought, yes, we still have them. You still see them advertised in pubs and bars, but the range and the wonder of the cocktail age has gone almost forever. Now, in researching this, I thought, in my halcyon days, I had my wahinis and the occasional scorpion in Trader Vic's in Vancouver, in British Columbia. And I thought, I wonder what it was like. Do I remember it? So I looked up various pictures of the Trader Vic's cocktail bar in the Bayshore Inn in Vancouver. And sure enough, it flooded back with memories. But quite accidentally, I came across a newspaper article praising a very well-known local lady, Diane Forsyth Abbott. And she was pictured with a number of ladies, and she was a master of the art of making good banquets and dinner parties and so on, and had gained international recognition for that. And I looked and I thought, that name rings a bell. So I did a bit more research, and sure enough, my good friend of many a year, David Kingsville Abbott, had married her. I think she was about the fourth wife that he'd had, and I knew all of them. David was a great character, an Irishman. He once, when he was in Ireland and I was in Northern Ireland, turned up at the front door and said, Keith, I've made a mistake. I made a booking at a hotel and they haven't got any record of it. I've got the entire Irish athletics team with me. What can you do? So we spread the Irish athletics team out around many, many houses in the area and had half a dozen lying on my floor for the night. One was a trainee priest who fell in love with my daughter, which was not a very good thing for either of them, since priests were still, I suppose, supposed to not have sex and to be absolutely pure as the driven snow. Anyway, I've wandered a little bit off track because David would regularly hold court in the Bayshore Inn to have cocktails. We had many a good time, but he was recognized by the authority in British Columbia by being given a fellowship, a lifetime award for his contribution to broadcasting, not least of which is also to cocktail drinking. And I've got that little thing again which tells me that I'm running out of time, but nonetheless it's a good thing probably, because I've rabbited on for quite some time. And it's a strange way, I suppose, of talking about the cocktail. But cocktails are wonderful, wonderful things. And I would hope that they might make a return. And that in remembering my good friend David Kingsville Abbott, by seeing his picture with his wife, Diane Forsyth Abbott, and his daughter Ingrid in newspaper articles surrounding Trader Vic's, made me cast my mind back to different days when I was living in North America. The cocktail was king in North America. I'm not sure that it was ever king here. I'm not sure that it ever really caught on. But a cocktail is a cocktail is a cocktail, and they are marvelous, marvelous things. So we had planned to talk about wine snobbery. Quite important. So many people are intimidated by going to parties where everybody seems to know what they're talking about when it comes to wine. 90% of them don't. It's just an effect. It's a way to show that they are rather superior to the people around them. So don't be intimidated, and there is a little trick that you can get around to fight back. And we were also going to have a little bit of cricket, because many a day I have sat in the long room at many different county ground and England ground, and had a drink, not necessarily a cocktail, while the innings was going on and wickets were tumbling and bowlers were having a field day. And so often happened in the 70s and the 80s. Not so much today. We're rather better at cricket than we were. But anyway, we will talk about wine snobbery, and we'll talk about cricket in our next program, which comes in a week's time. So I hope that you'll forgive my ramblings, but it just shows how you can start off with Pierre Danino and a column in Le Figaro about what an Englishman is in the eyes of a Frenchman, all the way through the cocktail circuit to Vancouver, British Columbia, where I suddenly rediscover an old friend who unfortunately passed into the great cocktail bar in the sky in 2017, David Kingswell Abbott. So please forgive me for my memories, and I'll see you soon. In the cocktail way, toodle pip, toodle pip.
There we go. There you are. There's the name in the corner. Liza Page.
Fame at last.
There she comes. Here she comes, walking down the street. Welcome back, Liza. Good to have you back.
Nice to be back.
We will try hard to see whether we can get you up on the screen, because, as I said to you, everything's been going wrong, and I have to figure out what. But there we go. There we are. There she is in all her glory.
That
ready.
Looks like a good picture, doesn't it?
It's not a bad picture at all, is it?
You were moaning when I came.
Well, I'm
you
a
said
moaner.
it is awful. Everything's gone wrong. Go home. No show.
Look at me. I never smile.
I'm out of focus. What difference?
Okay, let's settle down to the job in hand. You've had a lot of research, undergoing a lot of research. You've had a lot of experiences, some of which you're not going to talk about for a week or two.
No, I just can't.
Right.
Until I get my mind around what I've found out.
Well, I mean,
there's no way I can come on.
You're absolutely right. As you know, the principle is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And it is better to keep it simple than complicate it by trying to give everything at once. So let's hear what you do have to tell us.
Well, I'm going to have a little moan.
It's catching, you see.
Yeah, little moan. Went down the town, I think it was last week, and met a friend of mine, a very, very dear friend. And we went to the coffee bar next door to, is it Zorba?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
The Fuego place.
Fuego. I went in there. It was one of the most horrible experiences of my life, for the simple reason it was my birthday. And I was really looking forward to seeing my friend. We went in there. The noise from the music was abysmal. Absolutely. You were talking to Mr. Henty, weren't you, about noise?
Yes.
And I thoroughly agree with him. You know, it's dreadful what they're doing to us, and these poor girls in these shops, how they have to listen to this dreadful music over and over again with no they started all this business a long time ago. Anyway, we're at Fuego's. The noise was dreadful, the service was abysmal, and the coffee was stone cold. I mean, it was absolutely awful. We mentioned it in the nicest possible way, but waitress wasn't. Firstly, turned her back on us and walked away. I mean, nothing happened. Another waitress came over who was slightly more professional, but by then everything was ruined.
Yeah.
As you can imagine. It was just a nasty experience with...
Not my favourite place, I must confess.
With very, very unfriendly staff, you know. I think they're doing you a big favor being there. Anyway, I went next door afterwards to buy some, what was the name of that shop? Oh dear.
A shop or a cafe?
No, a shop where oh God, my memory is getting
what does it do?
Awful. It sells everything, cosmetics, you know, it's almost like a big chemist shop. It's one of those
chemist shops.
Yes, like a big one.
Yeah.
Something trade, I forget what it was. But I've always really enjoyed going there because they have an abundance of things that I find necessary.
Right.
So I can take that. And I've been a big fan of the shop, and always I've found their prices reasonable. I went in there to buy a bottle about this big of oil to take my mascara off. Tried lots of them. This particular one I happen to like, and it was half price. It's quite expensive. It was half price, and I thought, oh, that's a bit handy. As they're on offer, I'll take two. That's good sense, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's jolly good sense.
2 for 1. Yeah.
So I went over to, and the girls are very nice there. They're very sweet, very helpful. And she said, "Do you have a card?" So I said, "No, no." So she said, "Well, unless you have a card, you can't get those at half price." So I said, "What do I have to tell you to get a card?" Your personal details. I said, I don't choose to give you this information. Why? I've bought things here in the past that have been on
And
sale.
you know your details. You're just going to buy something.
Yes, and yet why? I said, I said, well, I won't have them. I'll wait until they come on sale normally, where I don't have to join any club. She said that won't happen. Interesting.
Yeah, forcing you to buy. I mean, it is
in exchange for your
yeah.
website number and blah blah,
et
and all
cetera,
that,
yeah.
et cetera.
Well, actually, Eliza, you raised an interesting point because I've had a number of thoughts about what we should do on this program, and one of them is exactly what you've just done, and that is keep the shopkeepers on their toes as well as the council, and by pointing out some of the deficiencies when we go to shop at them.
Mm-hmm.
So you just actually kicked off a new feature of Mirador Television, which we will carry on after September the 4th as a weekly occurrence. Yeah. And we'll all keep our eyes open about the good and the bad and the ugly of shopping in Lewes, because there is no sense whatsoever in us moaning that people don't come to Lewes. We in this television station are deliberately setting out on a policy to try and attract people to Lewes. Is if what we're going to do is to deliver a bad performance, bad goods, bad service, because we'll just look like idiots.
Yes. I must keep my eyes open for more of this stuff. I'm pretty bad at it, but I can get better, can't I?
Yes. I mean, that's to me, that's pretty naughty.
Well, they sell your information on you, see. It's big business, that.
I'm not absolutely sure that that's legal to say this is half price. And then when somebody goes up to get it, is to say, but you can't have it because you don't meet the conditions. Those conditions should be displayed and not hidden.
Absolutely.
I think that's absolutely wrong. Morally, it's wrong. I suspect it may be legally wrong, but we'll look into that. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. On with the alternative view.
Well, it's heavy duty stuff as always. I'd like to find something lighter that is improving things, Keith. But for the life of me, I can't find it. Okay, now this is.
I look like it is.
Yeah, this is Canada. I saw the boy that made this speech. He stood up and made this speech, and I think he was 19 or some ridiculously young age, and he was up there pleading for his father, who is going to be sentenced to probably 10 years in prison. Here we go. Canada. The son of a Canadian pastor who faces jail time for preaching to truckers who blocked the US-Canada border last year received a standing ovation in EU Parliament as he slammed PM Justin Trudeau for taking away freedom and democracy from citizens.
The EU applauded him.
EU Parliament.
Right. Oh,
EU Parliament.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yes, thank God. Yes.
Justin isn't a great favourite in the European Union.
No, and Detour and Justin stood up to make a speech, and you couldn't hear a sound for the booing. And that went on and on. They didn't show the whole thing, but I guarantee he had to give up there, I tell you. Okay, for Justin Trudeau taking away freedom and democracy away from citizens, Nathaniel Pawlowski's father potentially faces 10 years in prison after he delivered a 19-minute speech to truckers who were protesting federal vaccine mandates by blocking the border in early 2022. I am here today in desperation, a cry for help. Pawlowski, 23, told members of the EU Parliament on July the 4th. I would like to stand here and tell you all the things about freedom and democracy that I like, but I no longer know those things. They have been taken away from us Canadians. Nathaniel also likened Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to a modern-day Caligula, saying that we cannot allow these man emperors to run mad. And remember, all of this is being done under the guise of health, safety, and protecting us by stripping our rights and ushering tyranny. Pawlowski was found guilty in May of mischief and breaching a release order. He remains under house arrest as he awaits a court date on August the 9th. It was so touching to see this boy, standing up on behalf of his father. I'm going to cry when I think of it. It's so touching, the heart and the spirit of this young fellow fighting for his father. Even his wife can't stand him, Trudeau. She's buzzed off and said you can have that all on your own.
They've announced today that they're going to get divorced.
Yes. Yes, you can have that all on your own. She says, you're on the way out, and so am I.
I'm going to have to be very careful about this. It seems to me that his father, Pierre, separated or divorced from Margaret Sinclair, his wife, way back in the 1970s. So it runs in the family.
Sinclairs, yes. Interesting. Well, they do say that he is Castro's son, don't they?
Oh, do they?
They really do, yes. She was probably playing away, I think they call it, don't they? That's rather a man's expression, though, isn't it? Really.
That is interesting, and if I may say so, Eliza, as you know, I lived on the west coast of Canada for 17 years, and I have a lot of friends.
I thought of you.
So
yes, you liked it there.
I did, and I just had some of my friends are still quite politically active, and I just got a little note in from somebody who knows British Columbia very well, and apparently British Columbia did not want to join Canada as a province because they felt that they were so far removed from Ottawa they would have no influence.
Yes.
And apparently a lot of British Columbians feel the same today. And I think that probably it contributes to the unpopularity of Trudeau on the West Coast.
Yes. Well,
That's something you didn't know before.
No, I didn't. The votes are coming up, aren't they?
Yes.
But I still think he will get back in because Klaus Schwab is so heavily involved there with this WEF. They're doing whatever they like.
Yeah.
But it's tragic. It's awful. Anyway,
well, certainly Canada, of all places, which rather fancies itself as being sort of the nice, calm, decent people, is they suffered the most protests during lockdown, did they not? And vaccination of any country.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, this guy's come along and ruined it. I mean, Canadians were always sort of a little bit classier than Americans.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were sort of less brash and a gentler race of people, a little more civilized. Well, he's come in and ruined the place, hasn't he?
Well, okay.
Not good. Okay,
carry on. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I thought that was just worthy of a little bit of note. Yeah.
No, he's also, put some other rules in place that I even forgot to bring because I'm always on about it so much. I think I've driven that message home, but he was the one that sort of instigated this suicide business. We'll help you on your way. If you're a little bit depressed.
I find that very worrying, actually.
Is it ever? Because it spread to America. Absolutely. And then we were a satellite of them, so God help us. You know, so cruel and so evil. You know, I mean, it's okay. Look, if someone's terribly, dreadfully ill, I mean, you've got to offer them some help. Of course, you had. If you didn't do it for an animal, then you would be arrested, and you can't keep that anymore. So that certainly should apply to human beings, but it's very, very terrible when he starts. Little children of 5, you're unhappy. Would you like to die?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that man is mad.
That is frightening if it's reaching that level. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. On to the
Climate
next point.
change. Climate change changes everything. The magic phase for forcing humanity into smart cities is climate change. The World Economic Forum claims that the climate is out of order because people travel too far from their homes
That's the
and
young
have
way. Let's move that. There's a bit of equipment that's crept out of place. There we go.
Yeah. World Economic Forum claims that the climate is out of order because people travel too far from their homes and have too many outdoor activities that cause harmful emissions of CO2. That's why they want to add trackers in all of the phones and clothes and eventually inside our bodies to monitor the amount of carbon we are emitting. Never mind the countless factories they have erected and are still erecting that emit unimaginable amounts of toxic gases. Never mind the mega cities they want to build to replace green pastures. Never mind that these billionaires all use private jets that emit insane amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere. So apparently, it's not the cutting down of trillions of trees, destruction of rural countryside, or the building of monstrous smart cities that is bad for the environment. Oh no, it's lost it. They don't worry, do they, too much about flying around in their jets?
No, they don't. No.
And
It's terribly important. Yeah.
Yes, they say, well, with the good that we are doing, counteracts, what we have to do here. The biggest scam under the sun after COVID is this climate change, and they will go hand in glove with the whole thing. I don't know what's going to happen, Keith. I do not know what the devil is going to happen. It's
where do we stand with it at the moment? Bring us up to date with climate change.
I'll tell you something.
What's happening?
I don't know much. Well, the biggie I know about climate change is that fellow I told you about. I'll talk about him next week. And I would badly try to get his work put on here. We could transfer it because he's the best one I've heard on it.
Right.
And he's talking about DARPA and the way they've got it all controlled up there with this CO2s and all this chemtrails they're poisoning us with and the whole thing. The man knew his stuff. And we've just got to get that filmed on there. We absolutely have to because...
I'll bring it along and we'll play it.
Yeah, because they're responsible for this whole thing. And then they've been building up to this for this one world order with climate change. And also, they're going to bring in another pandemic. You can see it. I went into a dress shop around the corner here and they've got all the hand sanitizers out again, and on the buses, they never even bothered to take down the signs, wear a mask. I just hope and pray though. And there was another thing that I saw on here. I haven't got the guy's name with me. High up though. And he said, someone said, I don't think they're going to find it easy to bring it in this time. People are wised up, Keith. And then he counteracted and he said, you are so, so wrong. He said people have been brainwashed into that. It's like working a muscle. You give the muscle rest, but it works again afterwards. And people are programmed for the masks and the shutdowns, and they will behave. This was a trial run. He said, for the second one, we will come on even more forceful, and people will do as they are told.
Mm-hmm.
Quite distressing, that. But I still have faith in the British public, Keith. I really do. And as I discussed with you on a couple of shows back, people are waking up.
Yes, there's no question that, I get the feel for things rather than the specifics, but there's no question that people are not just lying down and accepting being told what to do the way that they did before.
No, I don't think they are they? No, I think they're going to have a battle on their hands, and I really, really hope so. But very, very distressing thing I came across. I think it was yesterday. I mentioned it to you on the telephone. In America, if they got them in America, I swear they must have them here too. They've got, it's like a ball about this size, and it's in supermarkets, complexes. And as you walk around, they say, if you put your eye up against this, they get your eye recognition.
All right.
And they say, you give us that, we will give you 250, 1,000, but we will give you £1,000 a month in exchange for your eye. And people are queuing up. They are queuing up.
Really?
When you say to them, do you realize I don't care. I don't care. I've got to have this money. I need it very, very badly. And I've got to have this.
So bribery is working.
Yes. And because I don't care what they know about me. I don't break the law and blah, blah, blah. And they probably know everything about me anyway. So I've got to have that money. Come on, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And they're queuing up.
That's
the
frightening.
way they used to queue up for the injections.
Yeah.
That's the way they're queuing up. So that's bad news.
Absolutely frightening. Yeah.
Very, very bad news.
There are levels to which I personally would go in providing a certain amount of information, but I most certainly am not going to contribute to me being used as a slave, used as an example, used as a robot. And it's I'm starting to agree with you. It's getting very close to that,
Very close.
where they know everything about us, and therefore are able to control us.
Mm-hmm. And you see, once they get these microchips into us, people say, "Oh, that's okay. We will go and live in the forest. We will get our own generators. We will do that." Because once you chip, they will find you on this planet, wherever you are.
Yeah.
And they will put the block on you, fending for yourself. And another thing, I'm not knocking these people, and I think they're brilliant that, say we're going to find an alternative way of life. I think that they're fantastic. But listen, I'm the age that I am. I can't go out and bathe in streams anymore and rough it in the country at my age. One, I don't want to do it, and two, it wouldn't do me any good.
Yes.
And at my age, I've been brought up in a so-called civilized world, country. I want taps that turn on. I want a heating that goes on. I want enough food that I don't have to worry about. And, I want what I've got now.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I think that it is a choice. Strangely enough, I was discussing leisure and the concept of leisure. I can't remember. I talked to so many people in a week, but there was a revolution in the 1960s, I think it was, where leisure was organizing basketballs and organizing table tennis and organizing hikes and so on. In other words, everything was organized.
Yeah.
And suddenly this guy it stood up at a convention on leisure and tourism, and he said, hang about, the man who sits on a steamy afternoon on his balcony in New York with a tin of beer in his hand is as much enjoying leisure as those people who are doing forced marches because they've been told to. And I think that this is
I don't
you're
want to
saying
be forced
we've got to be able to do what we want to do and not what we're being forced to do or told to do. Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I find the older I get, the more I enjoy the simple pleasures of life, like you were saying.
Oh yes, I mean conversation.
Yes, it's vital.
Just a nice meal once in a while. Good friends, good company.
Yeah.
It's very important.
And if I want to go to the trouble to have clean sheets on my bed, I'm responsible for. I will have that. I won't be told how much water I can use and how many times I can wash my jeans.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I can't live like that, Keith.
No,
I can't do it. I'm sorry.
But you know, the other thing I was thinking about the other day, and I don't know really that this falls totally within your remit in looking at things, but it's amazing how each sector in society thinks it's the most important. And what I was thinking about was, at lockdown, what was the first reaction of our MPs? Was to award themselves £13,000 because they work so much harder than the rest of us.
Yes.
Now, I know how hard you work. I know how hard I work. We start often at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're still going at midnight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I mean, yes. Nobody offers us £13,000. It's this idea of I am terribly much more important than anybody else.
Yes, I have a better brain than you. I have this, you know, and
I have more responsibility,
and my excrement doesn't smell. You know, I mean, this is the
horse manure. Yes.
Absolutely. Regarding these banks closing down too, this is another very, very negative thing I have to tell you. This has all been planned, Keith, so that they can bring in the digital money. They will make it so difficult for us to get our pensions or any money from the bank whatsoever. First of all, you probably have to go all the way into Brighton if you want to, you know, I don't do anything at all. So
you almost do now, don't you?
Well, you almost
one
do
bank
now.
left
Yeah,
in
you
this
one bank left, and you know they give
and
you
one building society, which is actually close to refurbishment.
Yes. So this has all been planned, all been planned, and they are closing down bank accounts. I've got the statistics at home, but it's frightening.
Yeah.
You know, and for no reason at all. They don't have to give you a reason. I mean, look at all the trouble Nigel Farage had to go to, and the woman that was forced to resign, they gave her 3 million.
Yes, that's right.
To buzz off
and applauded that she was one of the best bankers that they got. Well, from their point of view, absolutely, but not from anybody else's point of view.
No,
but that's just how our society has got twisted in terms of self-assessment. Really, nobody is trying to look at the broader picture, and that is it is a bit disturbing, to say the least.
Oh God, is it ever? And you see, once you have your digital money, then if you jaywalk with the cameras, and we are the most surveyed country in the world, we've been through this a great deal, and that's why they're building these 15-minute cities so they can condense us. They won't give you a warning. They will just say and take the fine out of your money, off of your digital money.
Yeah.
Well, where is it? Well, you jaywalked, so we've taken that fine.
Well, now tell me this: with all this thing about Sadiq Khan, and his is that part of the plan for digital for the 1 minute?
Very much so. Yes, but I tell you, there is no difference between the Labour and the Conservatives. They are hand in glove together. In fact, I think. I don't even think Conservatives are even trying to win.
Yeah. Wasn't there some... it's all right as long as they're full. Wasn't there some resistance to what Sadiq Khan is trying to do, though, from certain sectors of that society?
Well, that I don't know, but they had David Davis on one of the breakfast things, which I very, very rarely watch, very rarely. But I always rather liked David Davis, and then I went off on his bus, and the woman there interviewing him said, "What do you think?" She said, "Our leader seems to be keen on the digital money." He said, "Well, yes, he is. He's very keen on that. But that's one of the things I disagree with him on. He was terribly like it. And has been. That's why I lost interest in David Davis. So, yes, it doesn't seem like we have got any chances, because they're not even trying to win, because they're hand in glove with the other lot. And I mean, as soon as Keir Starmer gets in, he's hand in glove with the WEF. He's there at all the meetings in Davos. You can see him there, and straight back into the common market he will put us, and he'll take away the money very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. I don't know what to do. I know what I'd like to do. And I'm sure a lot of people out there would agree with me, but that might possibly not be possible. I don't know.
Well, of course,
we've got all these people fighting, Keith. I mean, the young female who organizes these marches out of the David Icke stable, God bless her, they've obliterated her bank account too. She was nearly in tears on there, but she's hung in there, and there is a very, very big march which she has helped organize, God bless her, this month, this August, and we will be informed. And I think you'll find that people will be out in style up there. Whether these marches do any good or not, I don't know. I tend to think they do, because people, look, if we don't push back, that's all we've got, isn't it? Yeah. We have to keep pushing back at this business, because I know when with the Christmas before last, I get all muddled up when we had all those marches up there, and thousands of people, which the BBC, there was 100 people who demonstrated, please. There were thousands they were. And that was why Boris Johnson opened it up for Christmas, I promise you, because he did not fancy another march.
Yes. Well, I'm always reminded of the scene in a docudrama about President John F. Kennedy, in which he and Jack and Robert are standing in those big bow windows of the White House when the anti-Vietnam War protesters and the equal rights people all massed in front of the White House.
Yes.
And Jack Kennedy, I mean, it's a docudrama, so not absolutely accurate, but Jack Kennedy says to Robert, "Jesus, Bobby, what the hell do we do now?" And Bobby says, "What we always do, Jack, nothing."
Very good, that. Very, very good indeed. Excellent. Oh, but that politics, that is a dangerous game, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it's all very complex now, and getting more and more so.
More and more so, yes.
Yeah. I don't think I would like to be in politics at all, even associated with it anyway.
Well,
I'd much rather be a sniper on the outside, which, as you know, we are locally, and you are internationally and nationally. So between us, I guess we cover a fair range of activity and thinking. Right, what else have we got, my darling?
Well, it's... oh, yeah. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. This is a biggie. Before I forget, I get forgetful. Stop world control. Look, I'm going to put that up there. Can you see that? Stop world control. please, if you have a computer, I beg of you to go to that site. The information on there is powerful, powerful stuff. I mean, if you want to know who's running the world, go there. They've got it, I tell you. And then, of course, there's David Icke, who I'm eternally faithful for on the iconic alternative. I mean, these two people, oh, I felt the life out of the information I get from them. Anyway, this one is not good at all. This is out of America. Biden has allowed this to happen. Mental health roundups, the next phase of the government's war on thought crime. Get ready for the next phase of the government's war on thought crimes, mental health and safety roundups, and involuntary detentions. Under the guise of public health and safety, the government could use mental health care as a pretext for targeting and locking up dissidents, activists, and anyone unfortunate enough to be placed on a government watch list. If we don't nip this in the bud, and soon, this will become yet another pretext by which government officials can violate the First and the Fourth Amendments at will. This is how it begins. In communities across the nation, police are being empowered to forcibly detain individuals they believe might be mentally ill, based solely on their own judgment, even if those individuals pose no danger to others whatsoever. In New York City, for example, you could find yourself forcibly hospitalized for suspected mental illness if you carry firmly held beliefs not congruent with cultural ideas, exhibit a willingness to engage in meaningful discussion, have excessive fears of specific stimuli, or refuse voluntary treatment recommendations. While these programs are ostensibly aimed at getting the homeless off the streets, when combined with advances in mass surveillance technologies, artificial intelligence powered programs that can track people by their biometrics and behavior, mental health sensor data tracked by wearable data and monitored by government agencies such as Harper.
What's Harper?
Harper is a very big military organization in America, which virtually trying to run the world, and it's running there. Behavioral threat assessments, behavioral sensing warnings, pre-crime initiatives, red flag gun laws, and mental health first aid programs aimed at training gatekeepers to identify who might pose a threat to public safety. They could well signal a tipping point in the governments to penalize those engaging in so-called thought crimes. As the AP reports, federal officials are already looking into how to add identifiable patient data such as mental health, substance use, and behavioral patient data such as mental health, substance use, and behavioral health information from group homes, shelters, jails, detox facilities, and schools to its surveillance toolkit. Make no mistake, these are the building blocks for an American gulag. No less sinister than that of the gulags of the Cold War era Soviet Union. The word gulag refers to a labor or concentration camp where prisoners, oftentimes political prisoners or so-called enemies of the state, real or imagined, were imprisoned as punishment for crimes against the state. Safety, they could well signal a tipping point in the government's efforts to penalize those engaged in so-called crime thoughts.
Now, let me ask you this. Surely these were the weapons that the old Soviet Union, the old communist bloc, the old Chinese regimes, they all used these weapons in the past. There's nothing new in them, is there?
Nothing new at all, please. Absolutely nothing. No.
Right. But the suggestion is that we're verging on having some of these used in our own Western society.
Absolutely, where police will have the power to declare you mental.
Right.
I mean, if you walk down the road in an eccentric costume or something like that, you can be declared mental. Or if you say something about the government or then that's thought crime and you're mental.
Yeah. Now, is there any evidence to suggest that that's happening at the moment?
Well, they did say that the bill has been passed where police can do that, can arrest you. This is America.
Right.
For being, if a policeman thinks you are mental, he can arrest you on that charge.
I mean, it's very interesting because, as you know, I had something to do with looking after a lady who was mentally challenged, shall we say?
And you did very well by her, didn't you?
I did, but it gave me an opportunity to see how this thing operated, and a good journalist that I know in London. She's not a typical journalist at all. She's a very good journalist, and she said, "I'm not a bit surprised about the way things are going on." She said, "We still treat mentally ill the way that they did in Victorian England," and I can well believe that.
Yes.
Yeah. Very little, and yet it's astonishing. Do you know how much money we spend annually on mental health?
Nothing.
Have a guess.
No idea.
18 billion pounds.
We don't see a lot from.
Well,
good heavens!
I mean, when I looked up the statistics, it shocked me as well. What the hell are we seeing for 18 billion? I have to say that when in talking it through, because when I learn about these things, and actually sometimes after you and I have been on a Thursday, as I like to go and discuss things with people to get the thoughts challenged. And somebody said to me, well, in that 18 billion, there would be high security prisons and that sort of thing, or hospitals, that they all have to be paid for out of that. So you can understand that some money, but even so, 18 billion is a hell of a lot of money to spend on mental health, and not to see a lot of it. Yeah.
It is.
So there you are.
And also, I mean, people, if they're depressed or something like that, they put them on these drugs that they very rarely take them off of, which cost a fortune.
Well, there's that as well, isn't there? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it to me is there are things which I'm not totally convinced that we don't have some good people who would want to do things about it, but people have their priority, and with all due respect, is the last thing that people worry about is mental health when they haven't got the oil coming in from Russia to heat their houses. It is. Maybe I may not be sympathetic to it, but I do understand it, and that, of course, is what happens. And as you say, you and some of your colleagues and so on, those are the sort of things that you are fighting. I mean, particularly your colleague David Icke is an awareness campaign, so that people know what the hell's going on.
What is happening? Yeah. Yeah, and then these crazy dumpy laws that they're bringing in, you know.
Well,
I mean, the speech. I mean, you can go to prison for 10 years for
yeah.
calling somebody something different that they don't want to be called.
Well, I'm surprised at what's happening in Canada, and if it wasn't actually for people that I know and I trust, to be sane and full of common sense, confirming some of these things for me from the West Coast,
Yeah.
I think I would be saying no, that can't be true about Canadians. But in fact, there is more and more evidence to suggest that it is. Yeah. And that's sad that a country for whom I have a lot of affection, by the way. I mean, I
yes,
like
I'm
Canada.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, my wife is Canadian, and my daughter is Canadian, and my two grandsons are half Canadian. So I do have
so a
certain amount of
beautiful country being ruined.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Well, we've been going for 3/4 of an hour as usual, and the time flies by when we're having fun. Would you like to wrap up what we've talked about today as a final act, as it were, on Liza Page and the alternative view?
Yes, I would. That thing that I showed you, please, I beg of you, get on that internet. There's some incredible stuff on there now explaining these things. And if you're not computer literate, then please ask somebody who is. You know, say, you know, I've heard about certain things and I'd like to know more. Do you think you could help me on your computer one afternoon if I come round to you? They'd probably be delighted, you know, to do that, because they're trying so desperately now in America to have the government run the internet.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, you must get in there before these things are different. I mean, there are some banned channels, but how long even they will last, I don't know, because all they've got to do is put astronomical fines on them that they can't possibly pay, and they will have to take them down. But we must use them while we still have them.
Yes. Tell me this, Liza, because these are the sort of things that perhaps I haven't did much thinking about. But you say that the government is working slowly towards taking over the internet and so on. But how do the big barons at the moment who own these things, how are they reacting to that? Are they fighting government control? Are they going along with it? Are they getting complicit? What's happening?
Oh, they're going along with it because they're all part of the cabal. Yes.
Right. So it doesn't really matter
these people are owned. And the channel that I told you to go to explains all of that. And it also explains who exactly is running the world. Yeah.
Well, you heard it first here. What I do want to reiterate is that Liza does a tremendous amount of research before she comes on and passes on these thoughts to you. So if you think that she sits down each morning before she comes in here with just a little piece of paper and pencil, then you got another thing coming.
I can't do it, Keith. I'm so addicted to what I'm doing.
Yes.
And I know that I haven't got time, you know. So I wake up in the middle of the night and oh no, I've got to get on that computer and get more information. Listen, this is my choice.
Indeed. But I mean, the fact is, what I'm trying to say to people is that you don't just pull this stuff off the top of your head.
No.
You actually do a lot of research, and it's very.
And I've been studying this, you know, for over 30 years, Keith, as you know, with David Icke. So I'm not easily fooled.
Yes. Okay. Now let's see if there's something that we can finish off with to finish the morning, because it is now 10:48. And just a reminder that it is the 3rd of August, already the 3rd of August, 2023. And we've still got a lot to go for this month. But let's see. Right. Now, I have overplayed this, but it's worthwhile. Last night was the concert in the town hall to honour Stephen Catlin, our mayor, who died about a month ago, and who was just quite an exceptional man, and he had received plaudits all the way around. And we have made a meal, if you like, of his secret garden. His secret garden was his pride and joy, and the Green Party, who are in charge at the moment, have let it go. And we hope that we can reverse that, so that this secret garden will be a testimony to him, but also will, as Liza says, we need some beauty and some colour and some natural things in our society. And Stephen started this, and it's up to us to keep it going. So we will be asking for your support soon. And this is what we're talking about.
Hello, here we are at what was Pinwell Lane. It ran up through here to the top of the High Street. It became closed off some years ago, and this land is now called Manorial Waste. And we have to thank Every, the great Lewis ironmaster, for bringing the gateway from the Grey Friars Franciscan Priory here. This is the only bit that remains. The Premier Inn is now on the site and had been a railway station before. This is the much vaunted secret garden. Until just a few years ago, it was covered in weeds, brambles, and goodness knows what else. I suggested to the friends of Lewis that it would be better, considering its location behind this ancient gateway, if we could cultivate it a bit. And aided by Jane Tyra and Gillian Ross, I've managed to turn it into this. I'm somewhat embarrassed to say a lot of people keep coming to take photos of it. And I can see there's an overturned pot I must rescue. But here we are. This is one of the better examples of the fruits of my labours. And I hope it gives you pleasure. Thank you. And this, the family burial place of William, Edwin and Anne Baxter, and dear little Emily in amongst the undergrowth somewhere. The hollyhocks will be butchered this week, but it is rather nice, the bizarre colours matching exactly how Victorian colour printing was done. But it will get a tidy up this week, I promise, because it'll be me that does it. Oh, and the bees. I'm so pleased to see bees and butterflies around here. There is one feeding. Isn't that wonderful? There's one bee I've saved. It's easy to get lost in the middle of this. See, zinnias, nearly 3 foot tall. They're only supposed to grow a foot. Must have been a good horse. So much colour. Well, I don't think death should be sombre. It should always be a bit bright and jolly. We'll just move this. Let the colour radiate. That's it. It looks good from the other end, don't it? Like all shows, backstage is not so pretty. Mind the bricks behind you.
Stephen Catlin's Secret Garden, and I have to say that he said he'd taken it from where it was full of brambles, and it is beginning to revert that way because we don't have the caring type of politician that Stephen Catlin was, and actually was willing to get his fingers dirty to make sure that Tatty Lewis ceased to be Tatty Lewis, but is now threatening to go back to being Tatty Lewis. So I hope that you will, even if only in spirit, join us to make sure that Tatty Lewis becomes once again the lovely little town that we have known for the last 15, 20 years.
Well, can't people volunteer to go and keep that up? I mean...
Of course people can, but do they? That's the point. But anyway, we are spearheading efforts to...
I remember volunteering with Tony Johnson some years back to go with carrier bags and those pinchy things to go and clean up Offham Road. That we weren't allowed to do it.
Yes, I mean that's very typical, I'm afraid. That's what I was talking to you about, where various sectors think that they're terribly important, far more important than others, and so therefore they are protective of this sort of thing. But anyway, that's for another show, because we've now come to the end of this on a day when Justin Trudeau is leaving his wife, where Donald Trump is heading towards...
she's leaving him.
Is she? Well, whichever. Is Donald Trump is heading towards court, and Rishi Sunak is saying he's going to hold off an election to the very last minute. So today, Thursday, the 3rd of August. Remember that date. It was all happening in the world, and we, on the other hand, were much more concerned with some of the freedoms that are being infringed by some of the things that are going on in various parts of the world, and which people try to keep secret.
Yes,
not
absolutely.
just a secret garden. Say toodles, Pip, Liza.
Say toodle pip.
Toodle Pip. We will see you
Bye-bye.
tomorrow morning at 8:30, and we'll try and get ourselves into more trouble, as if we're not in enough already. But what the heavens, trouble is our middle name, if not our surname and our Christian name. So until tomorrow, with trouble again, it's from me as well. Toodle Pip.